Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here in the Cup and Advent calendar. In today's episode, it's obviously the 24th of December, which means it's Christmas Eve. I hope you'll all enjoy this day together with your family or friends, but it will nonetheless be a special episode for this Advent calendar. The topic in this video will be Liverpool's best games in 2025 and also their best performances. In which I both say games from last season and this season. Obviously, there are probably more great games from last season. But yeah, let's just get right into it. So obviously, if you started last year, obviously still 2025, then the 2-0 win against City, it was a massive win because at this point we all knew that we were going to be champions. And Salah with a goal, Soboslai with a goal. I remember City had more possession and probably also more shots in this game, but we were more controlled and had better management of our shots, and also why we won. And the first time we had won at the Etihad in like 10 or 9 seasons in the league, so also a massive win to take at that point. And then obviously the 5-1 win at Spurs, the game we clinched the title. Basically a whole midfield here played superb. You can see McAllister with goal, Gakpo with goal, Diaz and Salah also. So obviously such a great game. I remember the Salah celebration also in this game. It was just such a great game. Obviously, also being able to celebrate a title win with our fans for the first time in the Premier League era, because we obviously couldn't do that in 2020 when there was COVID. So such a great day for this football club to take a huge win over Spurs, but also just to celebrate the title. And then obviously best performance from a player this year, I'd say it was obviously Alisson against PSG in that 1-0 win we had. So he made 10 saves and got a rating of 9.1 in that game against PSG, in which we obviously took the win. We obviously went out in the game afterwards on penalties, but nonetheless, PSG had so many dangerous chances in that game where he made 10 saves, and it was just wonder save after wonder save. So that's probably the best goalkeeping display I've watched in my life. Maybe tied with the display that Courtois had against us in that Champions League final, in which we sadly lost. But now some honorable mentions at some great performances this year. So obviously Salah against Bournemouth here in February. I remember this was going to be such a tough game against Bournemouth. They were very great that season and they were on a great run, but Salah then just goes up and scores 2 goals. A very massive win for us on the road, and Salah just proved how great he was in that season in that game. But obviously he still has that level, but now he's obviously at AFCON, so I'm quite excited when he comes back, if he can reach these peaks again. But he was just so great in this game, I remember. So obviously his first game, obviously what a performance. The whole midfield and attack, we were just so great in this game, and we could have probably scored more than 5 goals in this game. But after the 4th and 5th goal, then we were just waiting to the final whistle so we could celebrate the title. But obviously very iconic celebration from Salah with the fans, as I was talked about earlier. But yeah, this was just such a relieving game against Spurs to finally take the title. And then a performance from this year I think that we need to notice is obviously Ekitike against Brighton, in which he scored 2 goals. Obviously the one was a great volley in the top of the middle of the goal, and then the other one was a header. I just felt he could easily have scored more than 2 goals in this game against Brighton. Also, we obviously won that game 2-0. But yeah, he was just very great, and he had quite some great chances, as I also talked about in one of my earlier episodes, very Luis Suarez-esque in a lot of these chances that he took. And then if you look at the best games here in the 25-26 season, then we have the win against Villa. Obviously we dominated them a little bit here with almost 1 XG more than them. But we almost had as many shots as them. But obviously it was a very great and controlled game from our side, and obviously it was this game that Salah got his 250th Liverpool goal. And also looking at Villa's form right now, then this was a massive win, because that's on the next slide. In the last 10 league games, Villa have won 9 and only lost 1, and guess which one they lost? Obviously against us. That's also why they're on a third place right now in the league, and they'll obviously also win against United as they am recording. I'm quite sure they'll win against United at least, so that would make it 10 out of 11 wins in the recent form, which is so insane from Villa. And maybe they are a real underdog for the title, but I don't think they'll win the title for them, sadly. But they're just a very great team this season, Villa, so that win was just so massive from us. And then obviously the win against Real Madrid, we basically produced 3 XG on no penalties that game, 2.5 XG. Real Madrid had more possession than us though, but we had 9 shots on target, in which Courtois once again made a wonder performance. And the game obviously could have swinged if just Real Madrid had scored once with a performance like that from Courtois. But yeah, obviously the midfield in this game was probably the main point that gained us the win. And then obviously Inter, this is probably one of the most underdog performances we've had this year, because Inter obviously they are so great at home and haven't lost their home game in the Champions League in like 3 or 4 years, and then we broke their streak. It was a very controlled game from our side, but overall it was a quite evenly matched game when you're taking our penalty away, but nonetheless it was a great performance from the team. And then the 2-0 game against Brighton, as I also talked about with ATK, was a very great performance, especially from our defense. Gomez actually had a very great performance here, as I also have talked about earlier in this calendar, but he also sadly got injured in this game, which is so sad because I have also talked about it. He was very great this season. And then obviously the ATK goals were so great. And then Wirtz also had a great performance here. But the stats in the game obviously are very even. We basically both had 1.9 XG and almost as many shots as each other, but we had more shots on target. But it was a tight game, but we were more clinical. But the overall performances on the field this game were so great. So yeah, guys, that was my review on our best games and performances, individual performances this season. But yeah, guys, I hope you'll enjoy the rest of your Christmas Eve day today with your family and friends. But yeah, guys, remember to like, subscribe, and check out Liverpool fans for more content. But yeah, guys, there will obviously still come more episodes in this calendar. I'll be making an episode for the 25th, which is tomorrow when you're watching this, a Christmas Day special where I'll be looking at who we should sign and maybe also sell in January. Then on the 26th, I'll make a Boxing Day special, which I don't know what to recall in that one yet. And then on New Year's, there'll also come a video where I rank this squad this season so far. But yeah, guys, see you next time. Peace.